What's up, Shouty?
Hi, Shelly.
How are you?
Good. I feel like you're so far.
I feel like I'm a little far too. All right, let me give some context. So we just recorded a podcast, Anthony and it's the segment
Oh,
"Grow
my
Together."
rings.
And now, do you want to go put them on?
Yeah, give me 1 second. I took off my rings not because I don't want people to know I'm married, but it's because I'm very pregnant and swollen. So I'll be back.
I'll keep teeing this up.
Okay.
So Anthony and I just recorded a segment for the "Grow" part of Together, and we had some technical difficulties and some stuff it didn't record. And as I was kind of thinking about in that segment, I realized that I struck a very real chord in my soul. Maybe I should wait for you to get back. 'Cause I feel like this is significant.
I could hear.
You could hear,
Yeah. What you guys
but I want you in the.
in the shot?
But yeah,
Okay.
as we were recording, I struck a pretty significant chord, and I realized that like it was interesting. I realized I was getting angry, and I had to clarify at the end why I was getting angry, and because I didn't want people to feel like I was angry at them, because I'm not. But the form of darkness, because I've heard people say like, hey, when you're trying to figure out what to do with your life, right? Like, find the form of darkness that makes you mad. Find an injustice in the world that makes you mad.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that really makes me mad is that people will be hurt, and when someone gets hurt, they kind of make their life revolve around them.
Yeah.
And you notice like when someone's in pain or discomfort, that their whole world kind of starts to circulate them. And I was just thinking, it makes me so mad that people will get hurt when they're young, and that their whole life will revolve around them, and really they will avoid things. They will run from opportunities. They will avoid people and conflict. There will be moments that anything that even comes close to reminding them of the pain that they experienced, they will run from, and they run from their future, and they run from their life because of the hurt that already existed. And I was just, there's so many things. What I was dropping off Anthony kind of collided back into my mind, because I was like, man, there's an assessment called the 7 frequencies of communication, and my primary communication frequency is healer. And like, this is something that's so core to who I am, is that like I desperately want people to find healing, to a point where like I get angry at the fact that people kind of, when they're young, are given an injustice of pain that they don't know how to reconcile, and then they live a limited life because of the pain that existed, that they never even, like, their whole world started revolving around avoiding this pain or making decisions away from this pain. And I saw it in my own life. I've seen it play out even in an extent in your life. And I think that the reason why you and I have such a great relationship and have such a healthy marriage is because we saw the pain in our own life and dealt with it.
Yeah.
And we didn't run from it, but we ran into it. And now we're actually not running from anything, because we ran into the very thing that we were first afraid of.
Beautiful.
What do you think?
Well, yeah, I think it makes sense. I feel like there's a pull with hatred specifically, when the Bible talks about how the enemy is like he's a master manipulator, right? Like he's a liar, I think the easy pull with hatred, it's a delusion where you think, oh, this has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with the other person, right? And you say this all the time, like, sure, hurt, and when you get hurt, it's not your fault, but what you do with it after is your responsibility, right? But I think a really big area and tactic of the enemy is that, there's that pull to point fingers and call the blame game. And I think that's the reason why there leads to this lack of ownership in your life, because you're constantly looking at a lens and perspective of, no, this is you, right? Yeah. Kind of like taking and drawing the attention off yourself. But if you look at the ramifications and effects of it, it's like, no, this is you. Like, this is me, right? Because God knows that person's probably out and about doing whatever they want, not even thinking about me. But here I am festering in on this. Yeah. And so I think anger is a really complex thing, you know? I think it's hard for people to turn, and I'm just speaking even for myself, that when you think about, you know, some of the things that I've been angry about, it's you're always person focused, other person focused. You know, you replay that moment in your life, you replay all of the things that they said to you, all the evidence that even backs it up. That's like my thing, you know. And yeah, it's not until a moment where you kind of stop in your tracks and you think to yourself, okay, well, like, this is affecting me, so this has something to do with me. How do I heal myself without necessarily the need for this other person? And people will get kind of caught up in this idea of closure, right? But I guess that's a really good starting point of, you know, how do you feel like you've even gotten the awareness in that starting part of your journey where it's like, wait a minute, this isn't just about them, but this has everything to do with me right now. Like, what moment has shifted you from a blame game to taking ownership?
I think lately I've been having this kind of greater realization, and I think the moment of shift was probably when I realized that nobody was coming to save me. I was like, well, you're gonna be, either you can keep torturing yourself by replaying all the worst moments in your life, or you can deal with it and learn to live a better life. But I also think lately I've been seeing that a lot of people, like, everybody's hurt. Like, everybody has a reason
To be hurt.
to be upset, to be angry, to be hurt. And I just kind of finally saw this massive, bigger picture for maybe why I'm here, is just to help people realize that there may be so many things that you're seeing wrong, or so many things that you are seeing, you're living beneath your potential because you're hurt. And because you didn't even realize that you are making a decision here based off of something that happened 10 years ago. And you're not even, like, aware of it. And I think that's the scary part for me, is that you're not even aware that this is still impacting this.
Like, you're chained to the past.
Yeah. And I think people can tell themselves, like, I'm over it, right? Like, I don't have nothing against anybody, whatever it may be. But so many times there's like these little threads that still attach yourself there. And I think, how did I become aware of it? I'm just having a new level of awareness to it now. But I think I was aware of it a long time ago.
Yeah.
And now I'm just kind of thinking, oh man, how do I help people deal with that? How do I help people process that piece? Because there's almost a certain level, and maybe that's why I love being a youth pastor and helping in that area, because I'm like, man, if I could help you cut those ties before they're even, if I could help you avoid attachments that are wrong, or cut them when it's only been a few months or only been a year, if I could help you learn a process of recognizing and dealing with it so early on, you're setting your life up to actually live.
So let me ask you this, because right now your core emotion right now is anger, right?
I'm not angry at anybody. I'm, like, angry at the fact that this is the strategy.
Yeah. But I'm wondering if this is interconnected with other emotions / feelings as well.
I mean, I wouldn't, yeah, probably. I wouldn't necessarily, in my mind, I'm not hung up on the fact that I realized I was angry. But I just realized how passionate I am about this. It makes me burn hot.
Yes.
Which is very interesting to me. Like, anytime, there's not a ton of moments where I'm like, I get really hot about this. I'm like, no, this is a problem. Like, this needs to change.
Yeah.
So, but I think you're right. There are other core emotions. What were you going to kind of drive into that?
No, I was just wondering, because I think, you know, being hurt by people, yes, anger can definitely be stirred up, but, you know, there's things like anxiety, right? There's a lot of, like, identity.
But I'm not hurt at anybody. Yeah. I'm not hurt with I'm not angry with anybody.
Yeah.
Do you get, I mean, I guess you could get anxious over darkness too.
Yeah.
But I'm not really thinking about a particular person.
Yes. No, wasn't thinking that you were. But what I was saying was that this conversation started initially by you saying that people won't step into the fullness of what is in front of them and essentially into their arena because of past hurt and pain.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the core emotion that you used to describe an effect of that past hurt and pain was anger.
No. The core emotion that I was experiencing when I had this realization was that I was getting angry. I think that the core, that you could have almost any emotion that stops you from stepping into your future. I think a lot of people, it's sadness. I think a lot of people, it's fear. I think a lot of people, it's anxiety. I think there's so many things that stop people, but it's all these things that stop, that are tied to this thing in the past. And now this thing in the past is informing you in a way that you're not even aware. Or maybe it's even apathy. You're just like, I don't even care. I don't want to try. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that in and of itself is also an expression of, depending on where it's coming from, could be an expression of, I don't know, like, I don't want to avoid it. I don't really care about it because I know that last time I tried, it was,
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Why are you so angry about it?
I don't know. What makes you angry?
A lot of things. Well, for the first thing that actually popped up in my mind is injustice, right?
Yeah.
But taking it more so from like a self-centered approach, I would just say like when things just don't go my way, you know, and you probably know this, but I don't consider myself to be the most patient person. Like, you say that I'm incredibly patient, but there are moments in my head where I'm like really struggling that I feel like a lot of people don't see.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think but that's kind of where impatience comes from, right? It's not on my timing, or it's not the way that I want it to be, or it's not what I expected it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that gets me, sometimes it can get me angry. I think more so frustrated.
But what makes you angry about the world?
About like what's going on right now.
Just like, what in the world, when you see it, it makes you burn hot?
Oh, man. First thought that comes to my mind is people feel entitled to speak so loudly about their opinion and get their voice out there without even taking a lick of a thought to hear somebody else. That actually gets me really upset because, you know, I think the media plays really into this too, significantly, but there's also an element of pride that's there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stubbornness. But, you know, when we think about media, your algorithm is targeting content that you know that you're going to continue to consume, right? So you get a one-sided picture, right? And then when you get exposed to other people who are a little bit different, you know, you have that assumption in your mind, like, oh, I'm right. And so you start talking and you try to push your point and prove your point through everything that you've seen, heard, experienced, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't even give time for the other person who might say something a little bit different that is valid, you know, a listening ear. So I think that's something that makes me angry.
When people will be so quick to share their opinion, but so slow to listen to somebody else's.
Yeah, almost like a lack of like curiosity, you know? I think so many people are trying to change things without trying to first understand.
Yeah.
And that's like, how do you change something or influence something to change without going first to understand, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit backwards. And I think people, something about society now has built people to feel entitled to that. Like, no, you should go voice that.
Yeah. Go tell people how you feel.
Yeah.
Everyone should hear your opinion.
And I'm not saying like healthy emotional expression is not it, right? But I think when you think about just conflict resolution, right? And you think about what a skill it is to first sit down, and like what a huge hack it is to just sit down and ask the other person a question first before stating, hey, I felt this when you this, right? Like, yeah. But I think people now are kind of just trained on that. No, voice your opinion. Like, you have the right, and you have, and like, yes, like, you know, freedom of speech, right? But I think that gets swung so far into this one side of the spectrum where people aren't even able to ask a question.
Yeah.
Or that's at least not their first instinct when it comes to dealing with problems, finding solutions, and just being around people who are different minded than you, which is sad.
That is sad.
Yeah.
So how do you think the thing that makes you angry has impacted our marriage?
Has impacted our marriage? There's so many things that just came up into my, I mean, this like completely reshapes the way that we even see each other. Like, and I was just telling you this earlier, like I'm not married to you to change you. Right? When I think about you, and even when I say thank you to you, it's often out of like a thank you for being so well your genuine authentic self, right? And I think that it saves us from a lot of conflict because I'm not trying to change you to do anything, right? And I said this earlier, like while we were in the kitchen, I was like, I'm trying to enhance your authenticity and genuineness by providing a safe space for you, you know? And I said, I trust and know that you'll come to the conclusion that maybe you need to change in the way that you feel like you need to change, right? But I think that in me not maybe taking any assumptions and really starting off question or conflict resolution with like question, but being curious, I think that it saved us from a lot of codependency. I think it saved us from a lot of like stupid little arguments. I think it's turned us from being it's me against you versus this is something for us to protect. And I think that's the core essence of marriage, right? It's two becoming one. Like we're on the same team. And that's kind of the downfall of when, you know, people aren't willing to engage in a conversation and listen first. That you invite space for, okay, this is you and this is me, right? Very much separate.
But yeah, I love that. And I think that you'd really show that a lot in our marriage and I'm grateful. Thank you. Because
Thank you.
Our marriage has been a really safe space. And I think that's why, you know what we should call it? Our segment together? We should call it Safe Together.
Oh, that's cute.
Because I think that we're even naming our daughter's middle name is Haven, right? And it's Magnolia Haven, the budding and the growing of a safe space. And I'm really grateful that you ask the questions that you ask and you listen the way you do, because I really need this.
Oh.
And I need you.
Thank you.
And who you've chosen to be has really blessed me. So thank you.
Oh.
I'm
Jody,
grateful.
I love you.
I love you. But yeah, I think that in a similar vein, the thing that makes me angry is just that people will live a limited life because of past pain, because they're not willing to run into the fire of their own hurt or run into the dark structure of their own hurt and shine light on it and
Mm.
figure it out. And I know that sometimes I waffle between hopefully being like comforting and being like, let's fight it.
Mm.
And I thought it was funny when I found out that I communicate as a healer a lot, because I feel that fight a lot more.
Mm.
But I think it's a fight for healing, because I don't see healing as I see people finding healing as one of the bravest things you can ever do,
Mm.
because you have to look inside yourself and look at the very thing that scares you.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really proud of you, because I know that you've done that a lot.
Mm.
And that
Thank
we have
you.
so many conversations. Whatever. We'll just do the audio on
Camera's
your phone.
dead. Oh yeah.
I can readjust it, but we've had so many conversations where you have chosen to do the hard thing, and I really
Thank you.
admire that. So
Thanks,
I'll have to
babe.
say I love you.
I love you too. It's really kind of you. It's honoring that you see that.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you're in a space to see the vulnerability of it.
Well, we got the audio still. But I love you. I love you, babe.
I love you too, Shouty.
I think you're amazing.
Thank you. I think you're amazing.
So maybe, what do you think? Safer together?
You said safer or safe together?
Safe. We could do safe. Yeah, safe together.
I like that. It's cute.
See if it'll. Safe together it is.
Safe together.
I love you.
I love you too.
Ready? Thumbnail.
Oh. Wait, hold on. Let me get my Pula Pig.
Amazing. All right. Well, stay tuned.
Bye,
Never know what's going to
guys.
happen.
See ya.